Hello. Thank you so much. So the discussions and panel deliberations in GFF are all around AI. But right now the discussion we'll have is on a different AI, that is accredited investor. And therefore I thought, let me start with giving some background on this new, the acronym being the same, but meaning being completely different. So investors take risk, but they should know what risk they are taking. And hence, the idea of accreditation of investors who are expected to be more sophisticated than other investors. So let me mention to you a recent report of UBS regarding the increasing number of wealthy Indians, which has found that the growth in number of million US dollar owners in India has increased at 4.4%, and we are the fourth in terms of this growth numbers. And today, India has around 3.2% of the total world in the world personal assets. So the ownership of personal wealth in India represents 3.2% of the total world wealth. So we all acknowledge, and even around us we see that there is more disposable income and the wealth is increasing and people are looking for options for investment. In this backdrop, around 4 to 5 years back, Securities and Exchange Board of India developed a concept of accreditation of investors in the area of financial investment. The idea actually, if you see, was seeded when the Innovators Growth Platform was started somewhere even, let's say, around 2014-15, where the idea was that this will be a platform for listing of startups in technology. But somehow that concept didn't really pick up. But the concept of accredited investor was seeded then. When we were reviewing this concept in the context of alternative investment funds, so alternative investment funds are funds which do not do traditional investments. They are meant for people who can take more risk. So for example, if you want to invest in a startup, if you want to, so you would be, there will be venture capital funds which will be doing that at various stages of a company. They invest and they take higher risk, but they understand the risk that they are taking. So similarly, alternative investment funds are regulated by SEBI. They were introduced in 2012, completely opposite to a mutual fund investment. These are meant for sophisticated investors. So unlike mutual funds, which we always talk about how retail investment has become so resilient in India, and it is becoming a contraforce to foreign portfolio investment, alternative investment funds were always designed to be meant for sophisticated investors, and hence there was a ticket size of rupees 1 crore that was fixed right in 2012. So let me try and explain the concept of accreditation by elaborating on how to accredit an investor. Now, how do I measure that this person understands the risk? So as I said, that when we introduced a non-traditional risky product, alternative investment fund, we said that let's measure this sophistication in understanding of the risk by giving a ticket size of 1 crore. But it so happened that we came across instances where retired people who, because of their one-time bonanza, were increasing, were earning more amount suddenly, and they were being missold such investments because they could put in more than 1 crore rupees at that particular point of time without really understanding that these investments are in illiquid. So why are these investments risky? Because most of the AIFs invest in unlisted companies. So when you want to get out, when you want to liquidate your investments, the underlying company shares not being traded comes in the way, and it is difficult to liquidate those investments. You may not find good value for them. So hence, this was not clearly brought to the attention of these people who had just retired. So this is just an example. So just to measure the sophistication of investor by way of how much he can invest may not, I mean, perhaps it needs improvement. And hence we thought that there needs to be some independent agency who should be accrediting an investor for his understanding of sophistication in the product. So came the concept of, instead of having a ticket size, linking it to his net worth or income. And definition was, which still is, continues to be, that you can get accredited as an investor if your income, annual income, is 2 crore or more, or if your net worth is 7.5 crore or more, provided 50% of that comes from financial assets investment. Or you can also have a combination of income and net worth, 1 crore of income and 5 crore of net worth. Similarly, there were 50 crore net worth requirements for trusts, companies, LLPs, etc. And we introduced a new intermediary or recognized a new entity called Accreditation Agency who would accredit these investors based on the documents. Now, this is the background to accreditation. And the whole idea of this panel discussion is to understand from the people who are, the experts who are in the field of digitization, and as we all know that India has created a DPI stack which is envious, which world over people feel envious of. So the idea is to understand how this DPI stack can be utilized for accreditation. As I said, if I am an investor who wants to accredit myself, I have to follow a step-by-step procedure where I go on the accreditation website, agency website, enter my PAN, and then I have to upload certain documents there. Now this, it's partially digitized. So, and if we all know that today there are various sources from where digitized documents are safely stored, where they are safely stored, and they can be shared through a consent mechanism. So now I would like to invite one by one our panel members so that we can do some brainstorming here as to how this DPI stack can be utilized towards making the digitization, making the accreditation process time and cost both ways efficient. Let me start with Mr. Sunil Jain. Mr. Jain, being with the DigiLocker, having handled, you are also in charge of the national e-governance, which is helping Government of India in the whole process of digitization, and many other areas. I would like to ask you that what do you think, how the process of digitization and the strength that India has, do you think, first of all, that it is a good idea to use the available DPI stack for the purpose of accreditation?
Good afternoon, thank you. Now the challenge here is that people want to invest and people want to receive investments. Now we as government want to insulate, or we want to protect the people who, by somehow safeguarding them, that all those people who are not qualified enough or they don't have the risk-taking capacities, they should not be allowed to invest in this risky or this kind of new investment. Now if I go for accreditation, I want to invest, I have got money and I'm going to the government. Now, if government follows a lengthy process, asks me for submission of so many documents, it shall be irritating for the investor who has the money and who feels I am qualified enough. Now the government or SEBI has to come out with a solution which is very simple, frictionless, easy. Now, and then they should be able to offer me accreditation. And this solution can only be through DPIs or through digitization. Now, the kind of information you want from the investor, the information is already being issued, or certificates, documents, or any kind of knowledge is being issued by authority. Like, you have my PAN, I have filed my income tax return, you know how much, what kind of income I have submitted to the authorities, you know my educational status. So you know so many things, you miss government. So the accreditation portal or the accreditation system should pick up all that information which is available for me, issued by the authorities directly from the concerned systems. And it is here we basically are using the DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure. So we have like DigiLocker, MIT's product, which offers any individual to basically retrieve and store all documents, certificates issued to him or her in his DigiLocker, her DigiLocker, and share it whenever they want to share with full consent with the requesting organization. We have entity locker, like you said that some entity shall also be like able to offer the accreditation process. So similarly, entity locker is there. Then we have API Setu. If any information any department wants to share or publish, and then so that it can be used by other department, it can be done through API Setu. So if we basically go digital, we have got like UIDAI identity, person's identity can be managed. So if we want to make the system entirely seamless, frictionless, and I should not be hassled for getting accreditation. That should be the last thing that should happen. So basically all DPIs and the concept of DPIs are good enough to offer a seamless, frictionless, transparent, and it should happen within a day. If we really all combine together, all the authorities that are issuing documents, certificates, or knowledge come out and then they share it electronically through DigiLocker or through API Setu or through any medium. It's not that only DigiLocker, but through any medium, but it should be secure, safe, and trustworthy, and in real time. So DigiLocker basically presently has almost, like, you have the PAN details, you have the driving license, you have the educational qualification, you have the bank statements. So we have adequate information. If any information or data or certificate which is required by SEBI for the accreditation purpose, we can negotiate or we can talk to the concerned authority, we can get it on the DigiLocker. So I go onto the SEBI portal, I apply for accreditation, and I, with my consent, share all the documents which is in my digital wallet, DigiLocker, with the SEBI electronically, and the documents shall be shared directly from the source, not stored in the DigiLocker. So SEBI in the real time, they can have the review the documents or data and can take a call on accreditation. So this is going to be seamless, frictionless process in real time.
So thank you, Mr. Jain. So one thing is clear that there is already enough strength in our current DPI stack to enable a smoother and more digitized way of accreditation. But let me just take a step back and ask all the panelists. Let us see first of all, do you agree that this concept of moving away from a ticket size investment to giving some kind of a stamp of accreditation to an investor, is it a good idea? What do you say about it? Maybe Tanusree, if you can.
So I am on the innovation side, and I think the lesser we regulate, the better it is. But at the same time, it comes with a dual edged sword, where if your clientele is not educated enough, then you will have to ensure the client protection is also there. So what you have done is what the best you could do, because you cannot complicate the accreditation so much that it becomes even more difficult for somebody to get accredited. But at the same time, given the fact that we have so many digital rails available, the ways in which you can accredit somebody becomes so much more easier. So I think as a regulated entity, a regulatory entity, you should go to the ecosystem, figure out what is getting tokenized, figure out what assets you can actually digitize and present, have DPIs enabled through these fintechs and startups who can give you this information, not just limiting to these few, salary, bank account, securities. There's so many assets which people have and then can get converted. And then the rules become much more simpler, digitized, easier to play around with.
So are you trying to say that only two criteria of net worth and income may not be sufficient to really accredit someone?
It may be sufficient, but you may need more to enable the scale of investors. So you should try that out as well.
So Tanusree, if I may add to that, so two key elements that you're taking is in terms of the income and the net worth. Now look at India as a country and the demographics, and that's where we all have played a very significant role in ensuring that digital public infrastructure is at its best. We have interoperable systems. We have trustworthy systems. There are integrity elements around it. We at Protean been building this for nearly 3 decades now, starting from security services to taxation systems to pension systems, and all of these systems work a lot on trust. And we work very, very closely with what UIDAI has created, the NEGD frameworks on the governance side of it. The value where the unlocking of the value would come is also age as a criteria, because you will have a lot of elderly people who would have wealth, but may not have the risk appetite or the age on their factor to take this risk. That's one element. Second element also, while people may have wealth, and also this could explore further in terms of how about rural segments, how about agri income. People will have these kind of incomes, but they may not have the financial literacy to invest and also take over the risk. So from these perspectives, we completely, my personal opinion is that we need to add a couple of more elements. And that's where the DPI ecosystem that we all have created together can play a significant role, both in terms of the investors, taking care of them, and also the financial ecosystem.
Aparna, what do you say? Because, age and education are for the purpose of investment. Now, we have been having a securities market for such a long time where anyone can invest provided you have a PAN. To bring in these things linked to your investments, these criteria, it is a very sensitive issue, and maybe from DEA perspective, if you can.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Ruchi, I would just like to take this opportunity to go a step backwards and just to understand for the, in the interest of the audience who is here, to explain what exactly is our digital public infrastructure, what the government has actually done by way of creating this whole system. As you understand.
Yeah, actually, we should have started from there.
Yeah. So as we understand, and as the name stands itself, the digital public infrastructure is a set of infrastructure which is open, which is interoperable, which is scalable, and of course, secure. Now, if you see the 3 fundamental or the 3 foundational pillars of India's digital public infrastructure, one being the digital identity, commonly known as the Aadhaar. The second which we have is the digital payments. And in fact, India is the first country in the world to have set up this kind of a public utility for digital payments. And it is commonly known as the UPI in India, which has been so successful and so phenomenal. It is actually, its success is almost like a rocket ship, and you see 50% of all the digital transactions happening in the world happens here in India. So that has been phenomenal in its success, and you look at the amount of data which it generates. If you see the digital footprint of the UPI, it is tremendous. And the information which it provides, of course, when we'll talk about the accreditation, it provides a lot of valuable information which can be used for the accreditation of investors. And now when we come to the third pillar of the DPI, which is the data exchange layer, and one of the important elements of this is the account aggregator system, and of course we have the DigiLocker. So this was recognized at the third pillar, I think, as recently as 2023 during our G20 presidency. This was recognized as the third pillar of India's DPI. So if you look at all these three pillars, they provide a wealth of information. Now these information, we can leverage all this information for the purpose at hand. You know, at this, we are discussing about the accreditation of investors. So, you know, when you, so this is the background. Now, when you talk about income and net worth, let me not go into it. You know, these are very specific issues. It requires a lot of consultations. It has upsides and downsides. Yes, if you include more criteria, if you decrease, I don't think shortening the criteria is an option, because the minimum you need is the income and the net worth.
So let me just add that when we introduced this criteria, we looked at other countries, we looked at the world over, and we saw what they are doing. And as I said that introducing, because at any age, you can have the acumen, you can have the understanding. But why we have kept income and net worth, let me also, so even if you don't have understanding, you can hire. This is a very important aspect. So money gives you that power, that muscle, where you don't have the wherewithal, but you can appoint an investment advisor. Okay, so hence I think age and education may not remain so significant for the purpose of evaluating your savviness in investment. Maybe if anyone else wants to add on this criteria aspect, otherwise we can perhaps proceed with the other doubts and questions that I have in my mind. Okay, so I also wanted to ask Mr. Jain, I think you have already covered this, that there can be a seamless integration of various digital public infrastructure. One more thing, in the context of discussion of digital public infrastructure, as I realize it, see, in accreditation, we are looking at identifying those investors in a very, very authentic manner who understand the risk. So perhaps scaling up is needed, because as I said that more and more people are becoming wealthy and they need this risk capital, which is so much needed by the company for our dream of Viksit Bharat, needs to be, in this capital needs to be channelized to the right risk takers. Therefore, we have to use the data available with respect to getting verification and validation that yes, this person is an accredited investor. So in that context, if I may ask, data privacy related issues to Mr. Jain, that today, as far as DigiLocker and the other data, where the data is being shared and consent is also being taken as concern, what we have got the feedback from the people who have the wherewithal to accredit, but they don't accredit it, they are worried that, you know, whether my information will be leaked out. Why should I tell my net worth is so much? Why should I share my income details? Now, Mr. Jain, so from that perspective about the secrecy and on confidentiality of data, if we use the DPI, will I be able to get more confidence? Will be able to develop more confidence among these investors?
Yeah. Now what happens is how it is going to look like that you will have an app. Like SEBI shall have an app, I download the app or I have another app. I will say I want to undertake accreditation. So then obviously I will prove myself using PAN or using Aadhaar. Once I prove, then I will have to submit certain information, share your income or share your education or skill certificate pertaining to investments, blah, blah, blah. Now, while I do this, at that time, the investor shall get an option that, yes, I want to share my information, my data, my certificate from DigiLocker. So at that point of time, he or she shall offer explicit consent that so with his knowledge or her knowledge, the data, certificate or content is being shared in an electronic form, and that content or data shall be pulled directly from the source. The source shall e-sign it. It should not be, basically it should be, you know,
it's coming from the origin and it is not really stored somewhere else and being pulled out from there.
It shall be encrypted. It should not be stored
encrypted, right,
in middle.
And it will be latest. It will, yeah, it will be the updated.
Only that piece of information for which I have given offered my explicit consent, and consent shall be recorded. And then I can also even offer consent that this information shall remain with SEBI for how many months or how many years. Right, let us say if you have given me accreditation, I would say then after that you remove that.
Yeah.
Once you have taken a call, then why you want to retain that? So all those things are basically well in place in DigiLocker, and then we have got DPDP, and then entity locker. So all those things are taken care of. They're all proven things. There's nothing new about all these things. So investors or anyone who is using these platforms, so much of regulations are there, security audits are there. So all citizens or the investor residents can remain basically satisfied and assured that the
So
information.
I think you were trying to say that using the DPI will build the confidence which we are very much looking forward to in order to scale up the accreditation, the number of accredited investors. So let me just inform the audience that there has been a 50% uptick, a 50% rise in number of accredited investors since May. Several steps in between have been taken by SEBI to increase the number of products or improve the flexibility in the products that are currently available so that people would want to take accreditation, because there has to be a need, there has to be a certain demand. Then, so it should not be a situation where we are waiting for the demand to pick up and then to ease the accreditation process. So we are trying to deal from both the ends, trying to increase the demand by giving such products which are of interest for such wealthy investors, at the same time trying to ease the process of accreditation.
So Ruchi, just wanted to add one more thing here, that though we are talking about the DPIs already being in place, I think one last mile or second last mile, I would call it, is the protocols that we have for sharing information. Selective sharing has now become a reality. Zero knowledge proof has become a reality. So when, as a high net worth person, though I am not, I want to go for an accreditation, I don't want you to know whether it's 50 CR or 100 CR. I just want to tell you, or my source of truth to tell you, that I'm crossing the 7 CR barrier. So it's a yes, no, and Aadhaar has been doing
a great
it for a
enabler,
long
yes.
time.
If yes, no can
So
work.
these protocols are now a reality, and the session before us just talked about it. These standards are common now. So digital credentials, we call them verifiable credentials, are now a standard. It is a matter that agencies like you and governments should promote the interoperability of such documents, the protocols of these documents, so that selective sharing, secure sharing, as well as wherever privacy is required, with the same amount of trust is possible when we are exchanging and transacting in such documents.
Ms. Dosi, I would like to coin this question to you. So two things. One which come to my mind is that you want to add something?
On the data protection aspect of it. So, you know, there are basically, if you look at the globe, there are basically three models of data protection that we have. If you look at the extreme west in the United States, we do not have a comprehensive data protection provision. So all that they have is, you know, it's very contractual in nature. It's like a contract between the data provider and the data user. And if there's a breach happens, then, you know, you settle it through the lawsuits and the court. That system is hard, it's not practically workable in India. Then you go to the European system, and they have the European Union GDPR, or the data protection provisions, which are extremely stringent. And you know, they're so stringent and rigid that the business loses its flexibility. And it's no coincidence that you know, most of the innovation happens in the United States and not in Europe. So that could be one reason, you know, why. So now what we have done in India by way of the DPDP, we have tried to build up this delicate balance, you know, so that you have adequate protection for data of the individuals. At the same time, you have adequate flexibility for businesses to use those data, of course, with the consent. So, you know, we have built in this principle of the consent of the user. Now, so we have come to this middle ground approach. I think it is in the interest of all the stakeholders, you know, and we have seen it through the account aggregator system, and we have Sehmati as the SRO, or the DigiLocker system. They are working well. You know, this consent principle is working well. It is in the interest of all the stakeholders using the system that the consent principle is well respected, There are no breach of, the consumer consent that you get. The consent is got for, the purpose for which it is got, the scope, the type of data, and the duration. All these should be respected by all the stakeholders. So this is very important, and I think the DPDP, the detailed rules are expected anytime in October. And it is very important that, all the stakeholders, as I mentioned, we should abide by these rules, because that is how, the system can progress further. Thank you.
The next question, which I think would also come to the mind of our audience, is that if I am accredited investor today, how long can I remain accredited? What can be the process for revalidation? So currently, if you give your income and net worth income proof for a year, you get validation for 2 years. If the documents are given for last 2 years, then you get validation for 3 years. However, once, let's say, you have invested as an accredited investor, you continue to be an accredited investor and you continue to enjoy the benefits of the flexibility as well as the understanding that the kind of protection that is available or the regulatory oversight that may be there in case of non-AI products is not there in case of AI products. But it may so happen that actually you are not in, if you were to be tested now for accreditation, you would not fulfill the criteria. So I would like to understand from Rakesh that what do you think, I mean, whether this, there can be a different approach to this time, how long can accreditation be valid, how can we re-accredit, how can it be made easy, other things.
So let me step back before I answer that question. 3 elements in terms of a problem that we could solve, and specifically from the 3 elements. So one, from an identity perspective, and example, PAN on the financial side is a key identifier. So that could be on an online basis integrated into these elements right from an onboarding. It could be further strengthened with the Aadhaar ID. So these 2 elements make it very real time in terms of identity of a person. So that's one element. Then the second element is from the payment perspective, which is where the payment flows are happening on the UPI side. And the third important rail is the data exchange part of it. So the account aggregator framework, which also to a large extent takes care of the consent management part of it, which is where the information, and to the question that you had asked and what Tanusree was responding, is that an individual would not like to give the exact details, but however, through these frameworks of an account aggregator, and we could couple other DPIs like the GSTN, which you also talked about from an MSME, a proprietor, or individuals who want to come and become a part of this cycle. That's the third element where the elements of account aggregator, GSTN, invoicing, and this could be pulled out also along with consent with details in terms of a quarterly or a yearly or a 2-yearly basis that you would want to do. So this could solve and give you a real-time methodology of ensuring the proxies that you would want to do. This could bring that element of it. And beyond that, if you have the intermediaries who are wanting to do this, this entire solutioning, because we're talking about 3 or 4 different elements, and while all of those exist, the interoperability is there, but the integration of all these elements with a federated API approach is where we have been solving this problem for multiple institutions, multiple industries. And this is where this solution can come in. Beyond this, which is about the revalidation or revocation of this, which is also, if you were to look at from a banking industry perspective, re-KYC is a mandate for retail customers, which is where we are working with CERSAI and building the 2.0 stack. So those elements could also come in. Beyond that, as a technology provider, your elements of AI could come in, which could bring all of these elements together and put an analytical model the way SEBI would want to look at from the industry perspective, and bring that element. Not going in too much detail as to how the working of the solution could be, but this could help do two things. Right from the beginning of the first question, and we have always been in these elements of DPI, minimalistic approach is always the best. And the best deployed is from a UIDAI Aadhaar perspective. When it started, there were 3 elements, and that was a minimalistic approach. Similar approach can be built here in a way that it solves and builds the trust. And that's where the DPI actually comes in, because scalable, interoperable, 3 key elements of the entire space of the life cycle could be created through this.
So currently, like we have accreditation agencies, what do you see the future of these agencies once we start using the DPI stack? Because today a certificate is given by a CA proving the net worth, that is uploaded, they verify it. So there is some element of due diligence involved. While if we have very authentic documents, if we get into someone certifying, then like today a chartered accountant certifies the net worth. But if we have more reliable and authentic documents and just the validation of yes or no, whether you are beyond this threshold of income or net worth, what will be the role of accreditation agencies? And I think this will be important, because then we have to accordingly prepare them either to step up or to step down or to file an alternative, or if there is no need at all of accreditation remaining, because there's some sort of automated process which is working. So maybe because all of you are in this area, I'm not able to really envisage a situation where, and I'm not able to envisage the role of accreditation agencies once the DPI stack is used for accreditation. So if you could help me.
I'll add to the answer that I was saying. So the accreditation agencies, with this kind of a DPI advent, they will become the digital orchestrators. Now, how do the role changes into a digital orchestration? Today, they've been managing a lot of paperwork. Some amount of it partially has moved onto the digital side of it. That's where the technology service players like us, powered by what UIDAI and NEGD has built, comes into play. So there, like I said, the elements of, it could be a registry-based model that we could create. So all the investors, there could be a registry along with this federated APIs, which is real-time feeding into it. The revocation, consent management part of it could be elements that could be baked into it. Now, within these registry elements, along with the ID information, the transaction information, the GST information, and ensuring that information that gets passed is what is required, not beyond that. That's where individuals like Tanusree mentioned, like people like us may want to be a part of that. We may not be as wealthy, but that does not mean that we do not have the financial literacy to be a part of that pool. And one of the key elements is to ensure that the wealth generation happens and benefit gets passed on to as many as possible. So with this registry, we could also bring out other elements. And if you look at the other industries, if you look at healthcare, for example, in European countries, they're solving some of these problems using registries and ID-based services to bring this. Now, coming back to the question of what role they would play and how their roles will get enhanced, this orchestration layers can come as a service to them, where they can deploy in their operations, their IT, the methodologies that they use. They don't have to invest into building this, learning all of this. If they get into that cycle of learning and putting all the rails by themselves, it may take probably a couple of years, a decade as well. But if you have these kind of infrastructure and digital rails that we have so beautifully created for our country, application of that, and as simple as documents getting signed. So today, we offer e-sign-based services, which is powered by Aadhaar. So there's an OTP generated. There are legal documents. They're also built up along with the legal documents, which are digitized. And on the fly, that can be signed, and they can become part of all of this. And the entire life cycle can be beyond this. The payments included, and the reporting and the dashboards can be completely integrated for all the operations that they're doing today. So therefore, the role, if we go this path that we are discussing, the role will change to a digital orchestration.
Would you like to add to this?
Yeah, no, the concept of DPI is like evolving, growing. More and more departments or the entities who earlier wanted to hold that information, basically now they are realizing that it's the nation interest that we share the information, share the certificates, and let us not be crowded. If I publish it in a secure manner, in a secure platform, the proper process, and I share it with the department. So we basically like, whole of government approach, ease of life, all those concepts basically where a citizen now, if he comes to you, to government, we ask 10 questions or 10 certificates. Those certificates are issued by the government itself. So now the people are also getting, aware that they are really contesting that why you want all these things again and again. So nowadays, with new use cases coming up, now this is again a new use case, SEBI offering the accreditation using a DPI. So now more and more departments shall be offering their certificates, offering their data, and offering their, documents, basically on DigiLocker or any other platform like, Entity Locker, or sharing the information using APIs to DPI. So this thing is basically, it's evolving. And more we discuss, more and more use cases we develop, people will realize that there's no escape. Initially, people really, they want to resist. They want कि वो हमारे पास से कागज ही लेके जाओ, मैं seal लगाऊंगा, dispatch करूंगा. अब वो धीमे-धीमे concept is coming down. So I really thank SEBI that, you at least thought about this, that you can use this DPI or this investor accreditation process. Normally, yes, and that must be appreciated. It could have been a different thing, but you at least thought about it. So we're all there to help you out the manner we can all. And that's not an issue. Thank you.
Aparna and Tanusree, we are actually running out of time, but if you have some quick comments on the same topic.
So of course, with technology, I think we all need to adopt, and of course, the traditional roles of many agencies need to change as we evolve with technology. One very limited point which I would want to make here, but it's a very important point, that with increasing digitization and the increasing the digital footprint of all our daily activities, to that extent we are also exposing ourselves to greater cybersecurity threats. The larger is the digital landscape, the larger will be the threat to by cybersecurity. So all entities should adequately invest in adequate cybersecurity measures. In the Ministry of Finance also, we are seized of this issue, and the Ministry of Finance is now working on developing a cybersecurity strategy for the entire financial sector, and we'll bring out that report in maybe 6 to 7 months, and that's an important area that we all need to focus on. Thank you.
So just wanted to tell you that from the days 15, 17 years back when a document or a digital certificate that was being issued had no way of getting verified, to today where every birth certificate that Aadhaar gets verified from the source of truth, and we know it is not forged, photoshopped. So that is the kind of reality we are living in. Even 4 years back, people would not have imagined this is possible. So that's my bullish attitude that I'm coming from. The Aadhaar app, now you can verify even without internet. You can share without a digital accepting entity. You can peer-to-peer share. So all these things are becoming a reality. In that background, I think it is high time that we should enable the ecosystem to play around with this and give you solutions back, that you can gamify it, you can find out more investors who will be interested in these products. So we should reach out to the ecosystem more.
So it is an honor for me to just sum up the discussions. And so I think overall there is certainly a case to use and leverage the DPI for the process of accreditation. The criteria, I think more or less we feel that we are at par with global standards. Confidentiality is an issue, and through DPI, by the use of DPI stack, we can become more safe, and as Aparna mentioned, with various cybersecurity measures that obviously need to be taken by all stakeholders. This would even make the whole system more robust. And yes, we discussed also on the period of validation. So there are a lot of takeaways, and this was a very fruitful session. I would like to thank all the panelists and the GFF for arranging this. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. A very insightful, inspiring session here. I invite you all to kindly step forward for a group photograph, please. It has been an honor indeed to have you here with us for the Global Fintech Fest 2025. We also thank our audience for their participation.